morning, everybody. Calling to order our 9:30 Water Land Agenda here on Tuesday, February 7th. First up, we have House Bill 1159 relating to climate change. First up, testimony from Scott Glenn, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the committee, Vice Chair. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development stands on its testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony from Craig Nakamoto, HCDA on Zoom. Oh, in person. Great. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm also joined here today by Ryan Tam, my Director of Planning and Development. HCDA fully supports House Bill 1159. We already work closely with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development on these kind of issues. In fact, last year we were really fortunate to have Sarah Chang and Daniel Blass of OPSD to present to the board on climate change. So this is very timely. The notion of climate resilience considers the risk sensitivity and adaptive capacity associated with climate-related hazards. This bill is especially timely back when the rules for these districts were developed. I don't think sea level rise and climate hazards were on anybody's radar, so we're happy to support this bill. If it's passed, we will likely need to develop rules to implement the provisions of this bill in the respective districts. This will involve stakeholder outreach to landowners, continue working with OPSD, and as well as the county to develop these rules. So thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakamoto. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, that's everybody who signed up to testify at the hearing today. Is there anyone else who would like to offer testimony on House Bill 1159? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to House Bill 993 relating to sea level rise adaptation. OPSD, Mr. Glenn.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much for hearing this bill. This is an administrative measure. OPSD supports this quite strongly as a follow-on work to the work we've been asked to do by the legislature in Act 178. This bill would allow the OPSD to work with the agencies to help develop a standardized process for assessing vulnerability of facilities, which is follow-on work to we did recently for identifying those facilities. So I have Sarah Chang here with me, one of the experts in doing this work, available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Next, we have DLNR. Oh, Chair Chang, thank you.
Good morning. Aloha mai kako. Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, members of the Commission. Don Chang with DLNR. We also support the proposed bill, and we would stand on our written testimony.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Next, we have DBED.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. DBED stands on its written testimony and support and is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's everyone who signed up to testify today. Is there anyone else who would like to offer testimony on House Bill 993? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to House Bill 1091 relating to real property disclosures within shoreline areas. Chair Chang for DLNR.
Yes. Again, good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. Don Chang. We strongly support this administrative bill, and we stand on our written testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, OPSD, Mr. Glenn.
Good morning, Chair. We stand on our testimony in support of this admin bill. I would note that Chair Chang and I deliberately sat in the front to make it easier for you all for us to come up and back and forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Hawai'i Realtors, Lindsay Garcia.
Good morning, Chair. We stand on our comments. I just wanted to note that we neglected to mention that we would respectfully like to request a delay of implementation until November. Hawai'i Realtors creates about a lot of the standard forms that our industry uses, and our next batch of forms will come out in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garcia. Is there anyone who signed up to testify today on House Bill 1091? Anyone who would like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Rep. Souza.
My question is for Don Chang. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I guess my concern, I'm all for disclosures, and I think it's great to do this, especially near the shoreline with all the issues that have been happening recently. But I guess my concern was that the disclosure says that they'd have to disclose all of the permitted and unpermitted structures near the property or on state land adjacent to the parcel. So I'm not certain why the homeowner would be privy to that information, or why they would have to basically seek out that information. I do want to say too that buyers have responsibilities, and that could be something that the buyer would look into in doing their due diligence. So can you just kind of elaborate on that as to why that would be necessary?
No, I appreciate the question, Representative Souza. I think a lot of times what we're finding is a lot of these structures are actually on state property. They are on the beach, they're on the shoreline that we would consider conservation district lands. And that really does form the basis a lot of times for our citations. So I think what we want is, we wanted this to be very comprehensive, that so long as these structures are anywhere near your property, you have to disclose that. And clearly sometimes the violations, we have cited them for violations of our conservation district because those structures are actually on state land that have been built by the previous, or by the owner or previous landowner.
Okay. Just a follow-up question, Chair, if
Sure.
I may. So I see what you're saying. So I think that perhaps the language doesn't necessarily specify that it would be the homeowner's structure that is just so happen on state land. It makes it sound like there would be a state-owned structure adjacent to the parcel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, and I think that I agree with that.
Okay.
Fully. I think that the language needs to be specified that it would have to be the homeowner's structure that would need to be disclosed if it's on state land.
Okay. Perhaps what we can do is we can take a look at the language and maybe offer some amendments to clarify that. But I think for us, it's just trying to be as inclusive as possible to ensure that the buyer or the homeowner is under the best, how would I say, they're in the best position to know what's around their property. And sometimes they don't realize that it's an unpermitted seawall.
Right.
Or it's an unpermitted, sandbags. So we just want any buyer
Yeah.
beware.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Okay.
the clarification. I do agree with the sentiment
All right.
wholeheartedly. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Chair, if you could just stay there one
Yes.
minute. Members, any other questions for Chair Chang? I have a quick question on the amendment proposed in your testimony, Chair. So you're suggesting that we delete the Hawaii Shoreline Study web map and instead refer to the official county databases for
Yes.
historical erosion rates? In your testimony, though, you noted that only certain counties have this information available, Kauai, Oahu, and Maui. It doesn't look like it's available for the Big Island, for Hawaii Island.
Well, I'm going to ask Michael Kane, who's our administrator with OCCL, to answer specifically.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Ichiyama. Michael Kane, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands. So that is correct. The counties do not have official erosion rates for all the island. So we would need to work with the realtors on how to, or perhaps make an amendment. I can't see my paper. We had discussed disclose the annual coastal erosion rate for the zoning lot as determined by historical analyses. As shown on the official county databases, perhaps we can add when available. And that way, we do give the university and the counties time to develop rates for the other islands, but they are disclosed for Maui, Kauai, and Oahu.
And just to be clear, it's not the county of Maui, it's the island of Maui that's only currently available. So we don't have the historical erosion rates for like Lanai or Molokai. Is
My
that
apologies, correct.
correct?
It's the island of Maui. The studies are going on Molokai, but it's a time-consuming process.
Do you know
And
when that information will become available?
Is Dr. Fletcher here?
I don't think so.
No. I would defer to the university, and I can report back to the committee on their timeline.
Okay.
I know in our discussions, passing this bill will put the pressure on the university to support these studies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Thank you, Chair Chang.
Thank you very much.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to House Bill 952, which is relating to natural resources. We have testimony from Hawaii Emergency Management Agency Administrator Barros on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair and members of the committee. This is Adam Weintraub appearing for Administrator Barros, who had another obligation pop up suddenly in the same time frame. I apologize for that. We stand on our testimony in support and add a comment that it would be helpful to align the mitigation process that already exists with the actions contemplated in this bill. Stand ready for your questions.
Thank you very much. Next, we have DLNR Chair Chang.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chair Chiyama, members of the committee, Don Chang. We fully support this measure and we stand on our written testimony.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Ted Bolin, Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and Climate Protectors Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poipoi. Ted Bolin again for Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and the Climate Protectors Hawaii in strong support of this bill. We are in need of funding for climate change, and also we have the opportunity to get federal money, and so this is an important bill to help us get as much of the federal money as we can. So strong support. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Bolin. That's all the testifiers who signed up to testify today on House Bill 952. Anybody else would like to offer testimony? This measure, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 953 relating to the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, yeah, I got it. DBED, Deputy Director for, or his, oh, okay, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sandy Chihara Abe with the Hawaii Film Office, and DBET stands on its written testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Chang for DLNR.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Chiyama, members of the committee. We support this measure, and we stand on our written testimony. We also have staff available to answer any questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So everybody who signed up to testify today on House Bill 953, anybody else would like to offer testimony? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 1394 relating to Department of Land and Natural Resources. And first up, Chair Chang for DLNR.
No, thank you very much, and I appreciate you are so efficient. But thank you, Chair Chiyama, members of the committee, Don Chang. We strongly support this measure, and we stand on our written testimony.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have testimony from Clayton Kubo on Zoom.
Clayton Kubo, Waimea Kauai. Mahalo, Chair, for giving me this opportunity to testify in support of this measure. As I understand, as I see, Na'alahele program needs more support. Mahalo nui, aloha.
Thank you, Mr. Kubo. William Stormont, DLNR on Zoom.
Aloha. Good morning, Chair Ichiyama and members of the committee. I'm Bill Stormont. I'm the program manager for outdoor recreation with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, DLNR, and I simply submitted testimony and wanted to ensure that if there were questions regarding this measure, I'm certainly in support of the department's testimony and happy to answer any questions if need.
Great.
Mahalo.
Thank you for being available. To everyone
Sure.
who signed up today to testify on House Bill 1394, anyone else wishing to offer testimony? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 996 relating to important agricultural lands. First up is DBED.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Dane Wicker, DBED. We stand on our written testimony in support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Good morning, Chair Chiamo, Vice Chair for the Board, members of the committee, Chair Hurd, representing the Department of Agriculture, we stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you very much. OPSD, Mr. Glenn.
Good morning, Chair. OPSD stands on its written testimony and support, and we have Katia Balaciano here as our Land Use Division Administrator, available to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony in support, and we appreciate the committee hearing this measure, which we believe will clarify the legislative intent on farm worker housing and farm housing on IAL lands. We just went through the process in the city and county of Honolulu, and our small farmers are concerned with this provision, this incentive to actually incentivize landowners to dedicate their land in perpetuity in agriculture, but it will affect our small farmers because there's some uncertainty regarding the requirement that the farmer and their immediate family must work in agriculture in order for them to live on the farmland. That's ideal, but that's not always the case. Sometimes immediate family needs second jobs because agriculture is a tough business, and sometimes there's no profit, if any, razor thin margins. So to require that everyone in that family is working on the farm only is something that probably our small farmers are unable to accomplish. So thank you for hearing this measure.
Thank you. Okay, next we have, that's everybody who signed up to testify on House Bill 996. Anyone else wishing to offer testimony? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to House Bill 995. Also relating to important agricultural lands, we have testimony first from DBED.
Good morning, Chair. DBED stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Morning, Chair, members of the committee, the Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony.
Thank you. Okay, OPSD, Mr. Glenn.
Good morning, Chair. OPSD submitted testimony in support. This is an important bill for clarifying the process of going through this and making it more effective, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We have comments on this measure. We support the measure. We support the first part, which helps to clarify, again, the process as OPSD stated. It was flawed. We believe this, through rulemaking, will be a better process to designate from the county level lands into IAL. But the second part, again, deals with the farm worker housing. It does remove that incentive, but it doesn't do what the previous bill, HB 996, did, is offer an alternative to that. We prefer not to have the entire removal. If HB 996 passes along with HB 995, then that's great, but if HB 996 doesn't pass, then we no longer have an incentive for landowners to dedicate their land as far as farm worker housing. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on this measure.
Thank you. Everyone who signed up to testify on House Bill 995. Anyone else would like to offer testimony on House Bill 995? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 994 relating to land use. First up, we have testimony from DBED.
Good morning, Chair. Dane Wicker, DBED. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, testimony from Department of Agriculture.
Morning, Chair, members of the committee, the Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony and support.
Okay, thank you. Next, OPSD.
Good morning, Chair. OPSD stands on its testimony and support, noting this is the rural district and it's an opportunity for the state to improve our land use measures. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hawaii Farm Bureau, Mr. Miyamoto.
Sorry, Chair. Trying to work with DLNR. That was unintentional. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony in support. We just want to qualify that we are in no way advocating to reclassify land out of agriculture. However, as agriculture being the catch-all land, this is an opportunity to look at some of our more marginal lands, or actually buffers between the urban and the agriculture district, by classifying them as rural. We all see the proliferation of gentleman farms. This is an opportunity for the lifestyle farmers to possibly have their gentleman farms without the requirement of agriculture, which we believe the agriculture district does require. We would like to see agricultural lands used for the primary use of production agriculture. Rural will offer some options, so we do support this measure and support this study to just look at our land districts and maybe reclassify some of those marginal lands into rural, so we can have that where agriculture isn't the major requirement. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Miyamoto. That's everybody who signed up to testify today on House Bill 994. Anyone else wishing to offer testimony? Seeing none. If there's any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 1163 relating to Hawaii Historic Preservation Special Fund. And we have testimony from Department of Budget and Finance. Okay, Chair Chang, DLNR.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Chiyama, members of the committee. The department opposes this bill because it does take away from DLNR the special fund. I also do want to clarify too that priority should be made that this fund be used for government buildings, government projects, and not private properties restoration. But that's our basis of our opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone who signed up to testify on House Bill 1163, anyone else would like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions?
Question.
Yeah.
Request for a ruling, potential conflict.
Oh, we're gonna do the DM.
Yeah, but I
Sure,
wanna-
state your conflict.
I restore historic properties.
No conflict.
Okay, good. Then I'll ask a question. Dr. Downer, can you come up?
Yes.
Shifty. Your historic tax credit is expiring next year. Would it be good if you made this a grant program also to replace your historic tax credit?
Well, we would like to extend the historic tax credit for, it's past the sunset date. We couldn't get a bill in this year.
Okay.
But as far as grants go, I mean, I think in principle we don't have a problem with that, but I think we would have to work out the details and see what it actually looks like.
Okay. So you would like a grant program?
Personally, yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure that the administration agrees with that.
Okay.
I would also like to point out, I mean, our opposition to this is to moving this historic preservation special fund out of the department, because that's integral to our operations. But we do strongly support the rehabilitation and continuing use of the state-owned historic buildings. I mean, if you go up onto the balcony, you can see 8 significant historic buildings, including the Capitol. And there is no sort of dedicated fund for that. It's all a matter of, if you want capital funds, you've got to go through, you've got to create a project and go through the budget process every single time. So we definitely support that. We just don't want, the special fund can't leave the department. It's integral to our operations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I have a quick follow-up question. Thank you, Mr. Downer, for being here today. It's my understanding that the tax credit that we have right now does provide some relief for private property owners who have historic properties, but it's kind of a high threshold for them to qualify for the tax credit. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by high threshold.
Well, that it has to be 25% of the property
Oh, yeah. So
value.
the threshold is 25% of the value of the improvements on the property. So yeah, I don't know if that's high or not, but I mean that is the standard.
Mm-hmm. But there are, I think, maybe some private property owners who would like to do improvements to their property, which may not meet that threshold. And maybe I'm thinking that's where Chair Hatcham's comments about a grant program to come in for those smaller amounts. I think to help our private property owners that don't qualify for the income tax credit.
Certainly we support historic preservation. So I mean, the greenest building is a building that's already been built. All of the costs, the energy costs and environmental costs have, getting the materials, transporting them to Hawaii, constructing the building, those are all sunk costs. building a new building, you're starting from scratch there. So anything we can do that keeps people in the historic buildings is, in a usable form, I think is a great idea.
Okay.
And we do support that, making available funds for historic preservation in any way or form, any shape or form. I think it's just use of state funds for private properties. But if this grant is made available to incentivize private landowners to improve, to restore their historic buildings, we support that.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Thank you for being here today. Okay, moving on to House Bill 1056 relating to historic preservation reviews. Okay, sorry, Chair Chang, you're back up again. DLNR.
Good morning, Don Chang, DLNR. Good morning, Representative Ichiyama and members of the committee. We support this measure and we stand on our written testimony.
Okay, thank you very much. Next we have testimony from DHHL.
Aloha mai kako, mahalo nui Chair Ichiyama and members of the committee. The Department of Hawaiian Homeland strongly supports this measure, and we stand on our written testimony in support. We also concur with the comments and proposed amendments made by the DLNR. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. And testimony from Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Kamakana Ferreira on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here. Aloha, Chair Ichiyama and members of the committee. I'm Kamakana Ferreira, the lead compliance specialist with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We stand on our written testimony that provides comments. We think this will ultimately be a good thing and help to expedite DHHL's work. But the comments are provided to, in addition to having qualified staff, we're asking that they also ensure that they have adequate resources and that OHA be consulted when sites are encountered that are reporting to Native Hawaiians, which is already consistent with what's within the existing statute. Available for any questions, should there be any. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Ferreira. That's everyone who signed up to testify on House Bill 1056. Anyone else would like to offer testimony? Seeing none. Members, any questions?
To the Department of Hawaiian Homeland?
Aloha, good morning, Representative Ganaden.
I don't see an appropriation amount in the bill. Are you going to be requesting one, or can this come out of department funds?
The department and the commission thought it was best to submit this bill in the current form to reach success. We, of course, would appreciate an appropriation for FTE positions and for the kuleana that would be managed by the department if this bill were to pass. However, at this time, we decided to submit this draft form.
Thank you.
No problem.
Sure.
Oh, so, you can stay there. Yeah, thank you. I just have a question. So is the intent of this bill basically for efficiency purposes to have the preservation officer be in-house at DHHL?
Correct. Our goal, intent, is to streamline the process. We have taken steps, but we also hope that if we assume this responsibility, then DLNR can provide extra services to other agencies that they provide this service for.
Okay. Just a follow-up question, Chair. Do you think that this presents any ethical conflicts or just biases, perhaps, that the preservation officer is within DHHL making decisions for DHHL properties? I mean, was that a consideration?
No. In DLNR's comments, they mention wanting the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to follow the process as is, and as is outlined in 6E-8. And to also maintain transparency in offering that data to DLNR and any other respective agencies who may need that information. I think there is definitely a way for us to maintain integrity of process, but also transparency of data.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Question?
I have a question as well. I'm so sorry.
I just got to step here. Aloha repoi.
I want to share that I have similar concerns regarding housing a staff within the department to be also conducting this process. And, even with SHPD, at least there's that one level of separation. A concern is that there would be perhaps pressure to make findings in the interest of the department, because when you're under the department, you're serving the mission of the department. So that is a concern. Can you describe what the current issues are with the timeline for reviews and why this is necessary?
To be clear, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands truly appreciates all of the work that DLNR puts forward in granting SHIP D approval before we can execute construction or of lots. However, the current timeline takes about 165 working days. Now, when I mention integrity of process, I don't necessarily mean skipping steps just to expedite because our beneficiaries are waiting for development. But I do think there are ways in which it would be important for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to take the lead on this kind of kuleana, because nobody knows our lands better than us and our beneficiaries.
So there would be inclusion as well as of Native Hawaiian communities that aren't on the waiting list or lessee or signed up as beneficiaries.
The department remains open to input from the beneficiaries. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mahalo.
Members, any other questions? Okay.
For SHPD or DLNR.
Yes.
Regarding how information would be shared, would SHPD be willing to make its databases of information available to the DHHL, including sensitive, non-public databases?
Yeah, we have no problem with sharing information with DHHL.
Okay, including locations of burials of iwi kupuna that aren't public.
Yeah, I mean, part of our comments on the bill were they have to develop a process because that, you know, for all of these things, and part of that, in my view, is there has to be some assurance that they will have a way to keep that information confidential. I mean, we do it right now. It's, you know, not all of it. Probably 40% of our data is in a GIS, but the layer for iwi kupuna is secured. So it's only available right now to SHIP D staff.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if this is a question per se, but okay, never mind. No more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, all right, moving on to House Bill 1371 relating to the Sand Island State Recreation Area. Chair Chang, DLNR.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, members of the committee. I'm Don Chang, and we support this measure, and we stand on our written testimony.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So all the testifiers we have signed up for HB 1371. Anybody else would like to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, moving on to House Bill 1253 relating to Honolulu Bay. Chair Chang, DLNR.
Again, good morning. Chair Ichiyama, members of the committee, Don Chang. We do oppose this measure as we believe it's premature at this time, but we stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Ocean Tourism Coalition, Denver, Saxton Kuhn on Zoom.
I'm actually here
Oh,
in person.
thank you.
Motion.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ocean Tourism Coalition. Sorry, my name is Denver Kuhn on behalf of the Ocean Tourism Coalition. We're opposed to this measure insofar as it applies to the boat tour operators. We worked with the Division of Aquatic Resource in 2021 to pass the ocean stewardship fee, which will be a per passenger fee to basically fund places like Honolulu around the state. They estimate that'll generate, $30 million over the next 15 years. We think that's a very conservative number. This is in addition to the 3% of gross receipts that the boat operators already pay to DLNR. One thing that we wouldn't be opposed to, though, is if a percentage of the ocean stewardship fee that the operators will be paying is allotted to Honolulu. For a lot of the operators that go to Honolulu, it's the only spot they go to. So when they're paying that per passenger fee, they really already will be paying a per passenger fee to use Honolulu. They could take passengers from Kaanapali to Honolulu. So in a sense, they will be paying a per passenger fee. We'd also be happy to promote a system on the boats for gift giving. So maybe that might be passengers can scan a QR code on the boats and to help raise money for the Honolulu Special Fund. We have requested language modification to exempt the tour boats, and happy to work with on additional language to allot certain amounts from the special fund, the ocean stewardship fee, to Honolulu Bay as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, next we have Trilogy Excursions, Jim Kuhn.
Aloha, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the Committee on Water and Land. My name is Jim Kuhn, and I'm speaking in opposition to this bill. I do support the Ocean Tourism Coalition's testimony, but I want to add some additional information. The commercial boaters, referring to some of the intent of the bill, and Denver touched on it. But on item 3, it says, institute a passenger fee for tour boats utilizing the Honolulu Bay Marine Life Conservation District. And it was because this bill has been before the legislature before, a few years ago, that we worked with Department of Aquatic Resources to not just charge the vessels that access Honolulu, but all the commercial vessels across the state. So just one group wasn't getting carved out to pay additional fees to, but we would all pay. And this is going to be a huge windfall for DAR. They don't. Maybe they do understand this, but we have calculated this is going to be maybe a $5 million a year windfall for them. They have never had funding like this in their lives, and the intent for that was so that they would be able to do day-use moorings throughout the state, maintain them, really maintain the marine life conservation districts. It would benefit the entire state, and Honolulu surely could have a carve out that the money that came from that resource, very easy to allocate, to know where that money came from, and that could be allocated to the Honolulu program. So I think that's the good news, in that we are already complying with, and this is going to go into effect 2024. So we're a few months away from that. Secondly, the commercial charter boat industry is a high risk, high margin, low net profit industry. I just got a note from my bank, and I said, you used to have this book that told, what the industry produces. And so could you tell me what that is? Well, here's what it is. It's 3.72 net after taxes. So that's single digit. We've always been a single digit as an industry. We've been a single digit margin industry. And so we already feel that we are paying a really fair share just for the privilege of being in business. And of a $100 ticket, $8.16 goes to taxes and fees. So of that $100, the operators is left with $91.84 to pay all their expenses. And I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but anyway, they end up with $3.41 of profit after they've paid all these things, if they're lucky. They say you can make a small fortune in the charter boat industry, but you better start with a larger one. Anyway, commercial boating access is already very limited and orderly. We were told that we would have 5 moorings in Honolulu Bay, and in fact, they only gave us 3. So as an industry, we have worked with each other and rescheduled our trips so that we can all have access. Very limited access, but we do have access, and that way nobody's put out of business, and we're able to have access to the bay. But one thing that's maybe the most important is I would postulate that the very best way for a passenger for a tourist or to access Honolulu Bay is through a guided tour on a charter boat. We use a day-use moorings. We educate our people about proper reef etiquette, wildlife watching etiquette. They're safe. We're taking care of them, and we take pictures, leave bubbles. I mean, whereas the land-based access, there's no supervision. They're walking across the reef. There's just no supervision, and there's nobody educating them on these things. So I'm just saying that the charter boat industry, we love Honolulu Bay. We were part of the reason they could buy the Lipoa Point. We did fundraisers. This is our breadbasket too. So we're very passionate for that. And frankly, I don't think our industry would have any problem with having a land-based system like this. But where our heartache and the heartburn comes in is the idea that we'd be that they would have a reservation system for us, that they would be one more additional fee we would have to pay, and anyway, so those are you've got my testimony there. We love Honolulu Bay, and we're very pleased that the movement that's happened so far has been what it is. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo, for your testimony.
you.
Appreciate you being here today. Okay, that's everyone who signed up to testify on House Bill 1253. Anyone else wishing to offer testimony? Yep, please come forward and tell us your name.
Aloha and good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Kelly with Taralani Catamarans. I've flown over this morning to chat with you. I'm a direct competitor, Mr. Coons. Well, we're friendly competitors, and we're both serious about ocean stewardship. We both use Honolulu Bay for our operations. I'll spare you reading the entire testimony. At 9:31 when I pushed send, it was 60 seconds late. So I brought it and I'll leave it here with you. Without also being redundant from what Mr. Coons shared, some of the points I would like to underscore that he touched on is we do pay in Kaanapali boating operation 3% of all fees. We don't get water, we don't get gas, we don't get a mooring, we don't get a harbor slip. We're on a string, or a chain actually, out in Kaanapali. So we're paying 3% of every dollar for the resources and the ability to operate. And that's fine. That's what we've all agreed to for many years now. A new fee that we have also agreed to pay at the dollar per passenger really comes to more than $5 million that Mr. Kuhn shared. If you consider every boat in the state of Hawaii, every passenger that goes on there every day, $1, it's easily several million plus. So that's a great thing that we approved and worked with the legislature and committees to approve. It's starting 2024. We would hope that some of that goes towards marine conservation in Honolulu Bay. We do support, so I don't support this bill as written. We do support some level of land-based conservatorship and or fee or registration for those that aren't currently paying, and to control access from the land, much like Wainapanaba Cabins, Haleakala Crater, things of that nature. So we're in support of that, and certainly not in support of a new fee for the boat operators in Honolulu Bay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly, for your testimony. You can give a copy to our clerk. We'll make sure it gets distributed to the committee members. Okay, anybody else would like to offer testimony to House Bill 1253? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll go on next to House Bill 1447, relating to native plant species. We have testimony from Chair Chang, DLNR.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. We believe that this bill places a significant burden on DLNR rather than the taxpayer. So we would stand on our written testimony and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Next, Department of Taxation.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. David Richmond here on behalf of the Department of Taxation. The department stands on its written testimony, offering comments. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Tom Yamachika on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. This is Jay McMillan on behalf of the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We will stand on our written testimony submitting comments on the measure. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone who signed up to testify on House Bill 1447. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? Yep, please come forward and tell us your name.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sam Peck. I am testifying as an individual in support of House Bill 1447. I think that while larger action is needed, incentivizing the planting of native species on a small scale in small property ownings will be very important in stemming the biodiversity crisis that Hawaii is facing right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beck. Anyone else would like to testify on House Bill 1447? Okay, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 285. Chair Chang, Delanar.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama. We support this measure and we stand on our written testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Hawaii State Fire Council, Gary Lum on Zoom. Not present. Okay, that's everyone we have signed up to testify on House Bill 285. Anyone else would like to offer testimony on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to House Bill 1282 relating to the maintenance of Manoa Stream. Chair Chang, DLNR.
Good morning. We oppose this bill because it does create, it is problematic as written, but we stand on our written testimony and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Chair Chang. Glenn Otaguro on Zoom. Not present. Okay. Scott Snyder on Zoom. Not present. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to offer testimony on House Bill 1282? Yeah.
Hello, hi.
Morning.
Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi. My name is John Manago, and I'm just a resident. I live along Manoa Stream, and I totally, wholeheartedly support House Bill 1282 that was introduced by Andrew Garrett, I believe. And it would really, really help a lot of problems that the stream owners, being that Manoa Stream is privately owned, would help us maintain and clear a lot of the debris that comes all the way down from Paradise Park or whatever, logs, trees, boulders, when it's really flooding. I in particular have a special problem that I think nobody else has, in that I have a 36-inch storm drain that runs under my property, and my property line, there's a main sewer line that catches a lot of sewer from Upper Manoa and crosses under the stream. Okay, at this, the developers, when they made this subdivision, apparently they're mandated to put the sewer line under the stream and put the 36-inch storm drain in. And with this in mind, they had to cement or the whole bed of the stream and build a 10-foot wall. Now, all of this is totally deteriorating. The last huge storm, I believe it was in 2004, knocked my neighbor's wall totally down and was jeopardizing his property. It was just eroding, and he had to rebuild the wall at a cost of about $100,000. Not to mention the nightmare he had in getting all the permits to do it, because you cannot do anything with the stream. You can't change the flow of the stream. Now, my question is this. Being that it was mandated that all of this improvement, the walls and cementing of the bed of the streams was mandated, I don't feel that I, as a property owner, is responsible for the tremendous deterioration of the stream. I'll give you an idea of how much it has deteriorated. This stream bed went all the way down past my neighbor's property. It was all cemented. It's now all of it has deteriorated in front of his property, and half of it now is deteriorated in my property. I have like a huge swimming pool in front of my property with a small waterfall, and it's just deteriorating. There's huge holes that goes under it, and it's totally knocking out all of improvements. Now, if the wall falls and the sewer lines are broken, what happens? Whose responsibility is that? So that's my concern. You know, I'm concerned about my wall, but also for the people downstream, upstream. It's a terrible situation. I've reached out to the office of Calvin Say. I went to Congressman Case, and I've been working on this issue for probably 10 years or so. With the Corps of Engineers, we had Barry Taniguchi, I think even Kirk Codwa. Everybody came down and looked at their situation. And so far, nothing is done. The last meeting we had, Roger Badcock, who's in charge, I believe, of road maintenance and in charge of the stream maintenance. He came down and he said, yes, there is some, but not enough to really worry about. Plus, it is private property. We can't do anything. And kind of that's where we stand. It's frustrating. But at some point in time, this will be a major problem. And I ask you to support this bill so that we might have funding to help fix this problem. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monago, for coming to testify today.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on House Bill 1282? Yep. Good morning.
Chair, good morning, and Vice Chair and committee members.
You can speak into the microphone and tell us your name.
Oh, my name is Bernelle Oku. I'm an individual in support of this. I actually live next to where they're proposing to build 4 3-story apartment buildings, but I'm in support of this bill because I live next to the property that has the ditch in it. When we had the flood in 2004, which it flooded my area, and I had a sleepover with my 11-year-old daughter, and she had some friends, and when the water came into our house, it was like up to my knees, and it actually traumatized them because they were like, what's going on, you know, and the water's just this muddy water comes in. And I just wanted to say that because this stream actually it has a lot of feeders that go all the way down, and it actually ends up by UH, and I have pictures of the damage it did to UH in 2004, and also by Woodland, which was in our neighborhood. So I feel like if we don't clean this stream, because it goes all the way down to the Alawai, actually this stream feeds all the way down. It's just going to cause a lot of damage just if we don't upkeep this. And it actually is part of the water aquifer for Manoa, which I feel like we need to preserve that also because of the Red Hill. And so I feel like it's really important that we do keep this stream clean.
Thank you, Ms. Oku. Thank you for coming and testify. Anyone else would like to offer testimony on House Bill 1282? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions?
For the LNR. This is a problem statewide.
I know, yeah.
And I can see where Manoa is a major stream that goes, but what would you propose to deal with this for all of the streams and rivers and ditches that we have on private property, county, state?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question, Representative Morikawa. You know, and I'm sorry that I know how difficult that is. I've also got Cardi here. I think that there's existing statute, the county, and I think for DLNR, I think if funds were appropriated directly to the county to address these, statewide to address these issues, where there is one agency that can manage this, I think that is, because we too are tired of kicking the can down the road or saying it's not us, it's them. But I think the county does have the power at this point in time, so we would urge that appropriate funding be provided to the counties to address this very large problem.
But that would happen only if a representative understood what their county issues were, right? So I'm thinking like in Waimea,
Yeah.
right? We have the ditches that run through some state areas, go into private property, and when something clogs, everybody gets flooded. And so it becomes, oh, it's a county, and yet the state is saying, well, we don't have the equipment to deal with that, and some of it, I mean, what can we do?
I don't.
Because I can see us working together, and I can see where funds could be appropriated, but why can't county and state just get together, work it out, and figure out what resources are needed?
Good question.
What's the barrier?
So I guess for Waimea Town, we've had long discussions about the issues, and Waimea particularly is in an area that's really prone to flooding. They're in a flood zone, and obviously that's not a good place to start. Interior drainage or localized flooding typically is a county issue, and I know if the county is having financial issues, the legislature can always appropriate funds directly to the county if they have the need for it. The Waimea Mouth clearing, as you know, they're already clearing that. They have a uncertified levee that they're working on certifying that could provide additional protection. So that particular area, I think, you know, the county is addressing some of those flooding needs. When you talk about this particular Manoa, Manoa has always been prone to flooding and rain, but that particular storm that's identified in this measure was sort of an anomaly where there was a very intense rainstorm in a very short period of time. And the infrastructure to drain that flow was not adequate. And when the Corps of Engineers did a study post 2004 storm, they identified basically a couple of things that were problematic, and those were the bridges, particularly at East Manoa Road and Woodlawn Bridge. So those bridges not necessarily are undersized per city standards, but because of the intense rainfall and the flows, the infrastructure just couldn't handle that. So the Corps of Engineers is working with the city right now to look at a watershed project, a holistic watershed project which includes Manoa Valley, that is supposed to look at increasing capacity to the stream, particularly at those choke points, and looking at ways of detaining the water in the upper watershed. So those watershed studies, flood studies can be done, but we believe the county should take the lead on that kind of
And it
drainage
probably
and
might
flooding
just
issues.
require matching funds from the state or
Correct,
something
correct,
like that.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Members, any other question? Nope. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to the last bill on our agenda, House Bill 876, relating to native pollinators. Okay, first up, we have testimony from University of Hawaii.
Chair Calvert Young, Vice President for the University of Hawaii. The submitted testimony can stand on that testimony without comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Okay, on Zoom, Kaleheana Pohaku Stormcrow. Not present. Okay, and Momi Ventura in support on Zoom. Nope, not present. Okay, that's everybody who had signed up to testify today on House Bill 876. Anybody else would like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to recess for decision making. Recess. Okay, thank you, everybody. We're coming back on our Tuesday, February 7th, 9:30 agenda for the Committee on Water Land, reconvening for decision-making on House Bill 1159 relating to climate change. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We're going to defect the date to June 30th, 3000, and technical, non-substantive amendments. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 1159, Chair recommends passing with amendments. Taking a roll call vote, Chair Ichiyama.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Chen.
Aye.
Representative Ganaden.
Aye.
Representative Hashem.
Aye.
Representative Morikawa.
Aye.
Representative Takayama.
Aye.
Representative Souza.
Aye.
The chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. Next, we're going to move on to House Bill 993 relating to sea level rise adaptation. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1, defect the date June 30th, 3000. We're also going to blank out the appropriation amounts and put it into the committee report. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 993, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next, House Bill 1091 relating to real property disclosures within shoreline areas. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We're going to take the DLNR's amendments, except I think because we're not quite ready yet on the disclosure of erosion rates as determined by historical data, I'm going to delete that as a mandatory disclosure requirement until we have those databases available, but taking the rest of the DLNR amendments. So members, we're just going to delete that portion on page 4, lines 12 through 16. Defect the date June 30th, 3000, and also make technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any questions?
Okay, voting on HB 1091, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next, voting on House Bill 952 relating to natural resources. Recommendation is to pass with amendments, just defecting the date to June 30th, 3000. Any questions?
Voting on House Bill 952, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next, on House Bill 953 relating to the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. On page 2, line 13, we're going to blank out that December 2023 deadline to allow the department to have further discussion on how long this is going to take to implement. We're also going to add in a reporting requirement to the legislature, which will be due December 1st, 2023 on implementation of these requirements, and we're going to defect the date June 30th, 3000. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 953, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to House Bill 1394 relating to Department of Land and Natural Resources. Recommendation is to pass with amendments. We're going to blank the amount put into the committee report, as well as defect the date June 30th, 3000. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1394, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. We're going to go to House Bill 996 relating to important agricultural lands. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We're going to take the Department of Agriculture suggested amendment, defect the date to June 30th, 3000, and make technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any questions? Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 996, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. We're going to vote to House Bill 995, also relating to important agricultural lands. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. We're going to delete Section 3 of this bill. As noted in the Farm Bureau's testimony, it is duplicative of the bill prior that we just passed out. So we're going to delete Section 3 of this bill in its entirety, defect the date June 30th, 3000, and move it on for further discussion. Members, any questions?
Okay.
Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 995, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Voting on next House Bill 994 relating to land use. The recommendation is to pass this with amendments. We're going to blank the amount put in the committee report and defect the date June 30th, 3000. Any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 994, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, moving on to House Bill 1163 relating to Hawaii Historic Preservation Special Fund. If you can bear with me, members, we have some amendments to make on this one. We're going to pass out a House Draft 1. On page 2, lines 17 to 19, we're going to clarify that this is going to work as the same way it does for the Works of Art Special Fund. Clarify it's going to be 1% of all the same language and for the Works of Art Special Fund. So if anybody was curious and wants to look it up, it's HRS 103-8.5A. So that's the language we're going to apply. We're going to keep the fund and DLNR. Given the testimony of the department, we're going to delete the advisory group as unnecessary. On page 4, we're going to add in as a allowable use of the fund that is a grant program for private historic properties that do not qualify for the current income tax credit. We're going to add in a reporting requirement from DLNR, defect the date June 30th, 3000, as well as technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any questions?
Okay.
Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 1163, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, House Bill 1056 relating to historic preservation reviews. I think there's a good discussion on this bill, and I understand the concerns raised in the discussion. I'd like to keep it moving. For discussion purposes, we are going to pass a House Draft 1, taking the amendments proposed by DLNR. On page 2, so we're going to add a new subsection 3, requiring Department of Hawaiian Homelands to consult both with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and the appropriate Island Burial Council. We're going to defect the date to June 30th, 3000, as well as technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any questions? See now, Vice Chair.
Okay, voting on HB 1056, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next, House Bill 1371 relating to the Sand Island State Recreation Area. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. We're going to put, we're going to put in a defective date, June 30th, 3000, and we're also going to insert the amount of $500,000 into the committee report as requested by DLNR to implement this master plan. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1371, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. House Bill 1253 relating to Honolulu Bay. Given the testimony as well as the comments from DLNR that this may be premature, we're going to defer this measure. Okay, House Bill 1447 relating to native plant species. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. We are going to take the DOE tax recommendation to make it a non-refundable credit. We're going to insert a cap of $2 million per year. We're also going to add a 5-year sunset. We're going to add an appropriation, blank appropriation, and blank FTEs to DLNR to implement and do the certification. Defect the date June 30th, 3000, as well as technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1447, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. We've got 3 more bills. House Bill 285 relating to fire prevention. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1, blanking the amounts, putting it into committee report, and defect the date June 30th, 3000. Any questions?
Voting on HB 285, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Voting on House Bill 1282 relating to the maintenance of Manoa Stream. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. We're going to take the DLNR's amendments. We're going to defect the date to June 30th, 3000. I'd also like to put into the committee report that Finance Committee consider whether the hazard grant mitigation funding from the federal government might be an appropriate source of funding for this program in the future. Members, any questions? Okay, thank you. Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1282, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. On last bill, House Bill 876 relating to native pollinators. Recommendation is to pass a House Draft 1. We're going to take the amendment from the Attorney General, defect the date to June 30th, 3000, and also put in the committee report the concerns raised by University of Hawaii about implementation for the next committee to consider. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 876, Chair recommends passing with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, the Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. We are adjourned.